Okay, well, let's get started. Thanks for coming, Ivan. I realise you've just finished doing a full-on course all day long. So, you've been in the classroom all day teaching was it the electronics course?
Yeah, we're doing a yacht maintenance course with teaching students how to do rope work and teaching them basics about electrics.
Okay, great. Yeah. And that's obviously part of your company, Ocean Boardroom?
Yeah, it's part of the company. I do specialized courses, niche courses for sailors.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. And it's been great. You've been kind enough to come up to us. So you're based in Sydney, I believe.
I'm based in Sydney, yeah.
Yeah.
Every 3 to 4 months, I come up and, we team up and deliver some of these courses.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And we really appreciate it. So it's been great to work with you for the last couple of years. And, the feedback from the students is always great. And I've explained a couple of times before, but the point of these little videos and chats is really just to get an insight to not just people that provide services to Southern Cross and work with our students, but also for maybe that anybody's listening to kind of think about maybe getting into the industry themselves. They might be interested in becoming a Yachtmaster instructor or not to take work away from yourself or other providers, obviously, but there's another generation coming along, and I think it's nice if we're just sort of nurturing that and promoting it a little bit. So I have to say that even though we've chatted a few times, I don't know much about your history and how you got into sailing and how you discovered, sailing as a occupation even. So can I ask you, how did you discover sailing?
Yeah, it was, how can I say, random. I don't come from a family that my dad never sailed, my grandparents never sailed. It happened accidentally. I had a good friend that owned a boat, and he invited me to go on a race week. This is back in Brazil where I'm from. Yeah. And it was just to have fun. And I, for a couple of days into the whole race week, I was like, I actually kind of like this. And all of a sudden we kind of got competitive and we wanted to learn more about sailing. And it was kind of a bit of love at first sight. And after the race week finished, I'm like, well, I actually want to keep pursuing this. Then I went to uni. That kind of slowed things down. But after uni, I got really into it and bought a laser, started sailing dinghies and getting more experience on dinghies. And then I got into a share program on a 33-foot yacht where I had access to the boat 10 weekends in a year, and me and my girlfriend at the time, we used to go cruising up and down the coast. And so it was a combination of cruising up and down the coast of Brazil and then sailing small boats. And that's how I got into it. When I moved to Australia, that a fair few years later, I thought, well, how am I going to keep sailing? And what ended up happening, I was just living close to Yacht Club. And I rang him up and I asked, well, what can I do? He's like, look, just put your name on this board and somebody will give you a ring. And that's how I got called up and started crewing on race boats. And it took a few boats for me to click with an owner and a crew. And then after I did, every Saturday and Thursday, I was down crewing on these yachts. And that was really good fun. And I thought, wow, I can do all this sailing for free.
Yeah.
And
so that was here in Australia?
That was here in Australia over at Middle Harbour Yacht Club. Yeah. So for a fair few years, that's how I kept sailing, just, either hiring dinghies or doing crewing on yacht races. Until I was starting to get a bit unhappy with my day job, which was a marketing manager. Yeah. And I was already a dive instructor, so I've always been keen, bit of a ocean lover, that sort of stuff. Yeah. And I was working on weekends as a dive instructor as well when I could. And I was kind of heading to that age where, what am I going to do with my life? I don't want to keep this corporate job forever. And I came across the Yachtmaster program through one of the sailing schools down in Sydney. And, how does this work? Yeah, there's day skipper, coastal skipper, and then I did the day skipper course to see what it's all about. And then learned more about the Yachtmaster program, and that was kind of the back of my head for a while. So when I decided to quit my corporate job, my plan was, I might go overseas. I might become a bit of a boat bum and do scuba diving. It'll be good to have a sailing ticket as well. And that's where the idea of doing the Yachtmaster came from. And that became a bit of a 3-month sabbatical.
Yeah.
So after I quit my job, I thought, well, let's get this Yachtmaster. So I did a program, and up until doing the exam and getting the Yachtmaster. And that was the end of my corporate career for a while. Then I did a couple of jobs with sailing, went back to corporate again just to fill up
Just get some money.
Yeah. And then when I felt like I had enough money, I thought, all right, let's make the change. So one of the things I explored was, you got a couple of career paths. One career path is you can go become a charter skipper, flotilla skipper.
Yeah.
Another one is you can become an instructor, or you can go more into white boats and things like that. In the sailing area, I did after about 5 months after getting my Yachtmaster, I did my cruise instructor, and that became one of the options.
Yeah.
And straight away, when the season started around September, sailing school asked, do you want to start doing a bit of instructing for us? And that's how it all started. You know, I had other jobs during the week, and then on the weekends I'll come and do instructing.
Yeah.
And then it kind of became, slowly it kind of became a full-time job.
Yeah. So did you go straight from having done the Yachtmaster and obviously passed the Yachtmaster? Did you start getting experience here in Australia, or did you go overseas?
I went overseas for a bit.
Okay, yeah.
Did a bit of stuff overseas. A mix of charters, flotilla.
Yeah. Did you do the usual kind of yacht weeks thing that all
No, I didn't do yacht week.
No.
Unfortunately, I'm too old for that now.
You've missed your chance.
I missed my chance.
Yeah.
But I just did more chartering, and I did a bit of work up in the Whitsundays as well.
Yeah.
And that gave me a taster. And I'm like, all right, this is a cool lifestyle. And that's what kind of prompted me to go, all right, let's do this. And then I did a cruise instructor. And that's when I started, I'm going to settle back in Sydney. I had enough travel. I'll just be back in Sydney. I had other reasons to stay there. And the one career path I could pursue in Sydney was mostly instructing. And that's what I fell into. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, obviously you found a career path there that worked for you, but was it something about the teaching aspect that attracted you? Because obviously, as you say, there are many different avenues in the marine industry as a whole, but was it simply the fact that there was work there, or you actually had a bit of a calling towards teaching? Or
Yeah, it's interesting. I always had a calling for teaching, right? I was already a dive instructor, so I used to teach people how to scuba dive. So the instructing came very natural, and there was also a lot of work available in instructing. So
that helps.
So it really helped, and also location factor. I was living close to the school that had a lot of instructing rather than charters and things like that. So, funny enough, while I was teaching yachting, and I also had a job as a water taxi skipper.
Oh, really? Okay.
So during the week, I did more commercial boating work as well. So, and then I did a couple of sort of party boat charters, and I started doing that and instructing at the same time. So I had two types of maritime jobs that I was exploring, and the water taxi charter stuff was interesting, but it was good to learn. But after a while, it was just same, and more opportunities came up in the instructing, which I thought was a bit more stimulating. Because those jobs, what you're really doing is you're driving a boat from A to B, and you have to deal with the odd drunk person.
Sure. Yeah.
But then instructing, I thought was more interesting because every course was a bit different, and you had to actually think. You had to think, all right, what am I going to do here? Where are we going to go?
Yeah.
And rewarding as well, because when you're doing a water taxi gig or a charter boat gig, they come on, come off. They barely acknowledge your presence, and that's not what it's all about. When you're instructing, you're a key piece of the puzzle. Yeah. And then at the end, people are really happy, and they're really, they're really thankful and grateful. And I thought that's a good feeling. Yeah. And that's a feeling that I never got in the corporate world, or very rarely got in the corporate world, and you don't really get that doing some of the other gigs. Yeah. And I thought, wow, this is something that I could like. I think it also comes down to knowing your vessel, because as a master of the vessel, you need to know your boat, and also that means the machinery, the engineering side of things.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an expert, but it's good that you know what's going on. It gives you more confidence.
Yeah.
And I think as a confident skipper, you're a better skipper.
Yeah.
You tend to be less, you're not as grumpy. You tend to be more confident. You tend to be more tolerant. And you pass this sort of calm demeanor to the rest of the crew and the passengers or whoever's on board.
Yeah.
When you come across skippers that are usually quite nervous, it's because they lack confidence somewhere. And sometimes that is that side of things, the engineering side of things, because they don't have that background.
Yeah.
I had an issue, I admit, early on. I don't have a trade background.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, that was my weak side. And I had to really work and learn and do books and do courses to upskill to get to the point where, if something would happen here, I can probably find a solution myself, figure it out.
Yeah.
And that made me a lot calmer.
Yeah.
Because like you can go to sleep, you can kind of relax, knowing that if something were to happen, you can probably deal with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And if not, there's always Google.
Yeah.
So, which didn't happen a few years ago.
Yeah, it didn't.
So I'm sort of interesting. I have a question in the back of my mind, because sometimes we have people that come along, maybe they're a little bit older sometimes than the younger ones, wanting to get into super yachts and travel, and they may be thinking about buying a boat, making a charter business out of it. And sometimes these people, if I'm being completely honest, don't have a lot of experience in the marine industry, but they kind of they've seen a picture of a yacht and people drinking champagne and think, oh, that's a great lifestyle for me. But there's this huge gap often between, what you're describing, which is being competent on a boat, like to the level where you can troubleshoot and, navigate and sail potentially by the stars and things. But then when you bring the people element into it, then it's a whole different ball game. So I'm talking specifically about maybe smaller charter boats, husband and wife kind of thing. Have you had much experience of those kind of things where it's, maybe two people running a boat and they've done a bit of sailing and maybe one of the partners is good as cooking and they think, I know, we'll start a charter business. And often those things last about 6 months.
Yeah.
And then, they sort of disappear somewhere. So I'm always a bit interested in that, because I think you've got to be so good at what you do before you bring the general public on board.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, and that's what I like about the teaching, because certainly in the early stages, you get all these questions thrown at you and you're kind of like, oh, I've never thought about that. I've never, you get 5 different questions before you've even had your coffee. And, and then when you go to do the charter boats, it's a whole other level, I find, because you're having to look after people and...
Yeah, it's a different dynamic. I never ran my own charter, but I know a lot of people that run charter businesses.
Yeah.
And it's a different dynamic in that when you teaching, they want to be a part of it. The students want to help out, and oftentimes you have a school backing you or resources. When you charter, you really don't. It's just boat's not working, the charter's cancelled.
Yeah.
And you're talking about 20 people paying a lot of money to be on there, and all of a sudden it's not working. So the stakes are higher, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to replace something goes wrong to make up for it.
Yeah.
What happened during COVID, a lot of people then had money, couldn't travel, they had disposable income, let's buy a boat. So you have a lot of couples and families buying boats during COVID, and then having to learn about boats and the reality of owning a boat.
Yeah.
And then you'd see some people embraced it, and other people going, whoa, this is...
Yeah. What have I done?
What have I done? Yeah, a bit more than I could chew here. And some people...
sold the home and now we've got a boat.
Yeah, sold the home, now we got this, extremely expensive thing here floating around or waiting to get delivery of it. And they start realizing what a commitment it is.
Yeah.
And how much they don't know.
Yeah.
And it can, for some people, it become quite overwhelming to the point where it's sort of starting to ruin family relationships or
the enjoyment of it.
an enjoyment of it all. So I did see some of that happen.
Yeah.
Where the idea was quite romantic, being at Anchorage, the kids jumping off the back of the boat, and then they realize, wait a minute, that can happen, but it's not just that.
The toilet's broken, the impeller doesn't work.
Yeah, the toilet's blocked. Oh, this engine's not working.
Yeah.
Leaking water here, and all of a sudden, who's going to fix it? Well, you will.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden, they get caught in bad weather, and what started out as a nice fine day, champagne sailing, and now has become a bit of a nightmare.
Ends in divorce.
Now part of the family doesn't want to be. We're not going on this anymore.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you're going to do it as a family, make sure that everybody enjoys it, because if you enjoy it, be it husband or wife, doesn't matter, and the other one doesn't, game's over. I mean, either the boats get sold or the divorce papers come out.
Yeah.
Because it's very hard spending time and money on a boat if both people don't like it.
Yeah. And not 100% invested.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. It's something we say to our students all the time. I mean, people are very keen to just buy the boat, get sailing, get going, start the charter business, and we're all about slow down, this doesn't have to happen in a 6-month period. This is a lifelong kind of pursuit. So get as much experience as you can, charter boats, even do like a share kind of model. There's plenty of those around. And then when you really know what kind of boat, as you say, partners are on board, then you can think about maybe buying a boat and potentially becoming a charter operator or something like that.
And the other aspect of being a charter operator is, one is the NSCV, the National Standards of Commercial Vessels. So you can't just buy a boat and start selling spots on it. It has to be a commercial vessel.
Yeah.
Not every boat's a commercial vessel. You have to turn it into a commercial vessel.
Yeah.
That may require little work and little money. That may require a year's worth of work and a lot of money.
Yeah.
I've worked on a boat that we had to turn it into a commercial vessel. It's a lot of money and headache. It's not something that happens within a month. You're talking about 3 to 6 months possibly. So all of a sudden you bought this, you made this investment, and you're not going to see $1 in maybe 6 to 12 months. And then you got the season to think about as well.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing they got to realize. You have to comply with AMSA and the standards for domestic commercial vessels. Then your workplace. Then you got to realize you got to comply with all the workplace legislation, work health and safety, and make sure you're meeting all the award wages and requirements.
Yeah.
Then you have all the liability issues as well. If an accident happens, what's the worst case scenario? Somebody may sue you. Have you got all the insurances in place?
Yep.
And would you be able to deal with something like that? So there's a lot to think about before setting up a charter business. It's different to just buying a boat and having a good time with your mates.
Yeah.
Running as a business there's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of time and money just to be able to comply.
Yeah. And that's before you've dealt with the weather and the weather cancellations and the natural events and the
demanding customers and all the other or the engine that's broken down.
Yeah.
The day before the charter was going to go out. So that's just.
I think I should close the business on Monday. I've just decided. I think.
Having said, I know a lot of people that they're running charter businesses and it's thriving and they buy more boats.
Yeah. Because
they understand how it works and they can make it work for them and they enjoy the lifestyle.
Yeah. I think maybe it's always been a little bit like this, up and down, but I think at the moment there's this real, as you said, customers are becoming, maybe more demanding in some ways, but I also think it's that just nowadays people have more choice and also they know what they like more. Yeah. So, and they're not shy about saying that, whether it's to ourselves or other operators. So I think there's a bit of the wheat separating from the chaff a little bit, that expression of kind of the strong survive a little bit.
Yeah, I think the ones that provide the best service survive.
Yeah.
Because now, customers now, they know what they want more. There are a lot more options.
Yeah. And
there are a lot more ways of expressing satisfaction as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
and dissatisfaction.
Yeah. And oftentimes they express dissatisfaction more than express satisfaction.
Yeah.
So, or they do it more loudly.
Yeah.
So if you are a provider that's not committed to customer service and make sure people have gotten value for money, you're not going to survive very long.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because before, people, they couldn't read reviews and TripAdvisor or Google reviews, Facebook reviews. That didn't exist back then. Now it exists.
Yeah.
And that's how people shop around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to be able to provide a good product.
Yeah.
And then if you do, you get rewarded. You know, people come to you and you get the demand. If you don't, then really quickly, you know, you're going to see business kind of go away.
And struggle. I mean, in some ways it's harder than it's ever been. I mean, I'm talking like I've been in business for years, but ran a charter business in Spain. It was my own for 10 years. And then before that, our families had charter businesses. So I've been in it for a while. But it seems like it's almost like a separation now. I've noticed that there's really good people actually in the industry. I was speaking with Wendy Sullivan yesterday, who I mentioned to you before we started Marine Medical Solutions C, and she's so professional and the quality of the work they do is so good. And then on the flip side of that, you get people that have literally, I have no experience in this, but I think I'll just have a go.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a recipe for disaster. You have to put the time in, you know, to learn the basics, do your apprenticeship and really learn.
Pay your dues, right? Like, good operators, they're not good for no reason. They've made the mistakes and they've learned and they've perfected and they also have a commitment to provide a good service. As I mentioned, now it's a lot easier to find out and discover which ones are the ones that are good and which ones are the ones that are not.
Yeah.
Oftentimes people look for bargains and that may send them the way of the more inexperienced ones because oftentimes they're cheaper, but that's not really sustainable. So, but yeah, I do find working in this industry in different aspects, instructing, recreational, commercial, work in the commercial, it's a pretty technical professional industry.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you just, you know, you get your ticket and you go. Even for skippers, right? One of the issues, it's not a lack of skippers, there's a lack of good skippers. For example, Sydney Harbour, because you hear a lot of charter operators, hey, I need a skipper, I need a deckhand. But you see a lot of people coming through, but are they actually employable?
Yeah.
And that's what I find, you know, the people can come and do the courses and get the qualifications, but most of them are not actually employable. And not because of training and skills, because of other aspects.
Haven't put the time in.
Yeah, put the time in or the maturity or the right mindset.
Yeah. I think COVID might have had a bit of a part to play in some of that. There's sort of like this hole that people are still catching up to. But yeah, I completely agree. Look, Ivan, it's so nice to talk to you and I really appreciate your time. I know you have to go and tidy the classroom up for tomorrow and things, so I really appreciate that you've given us this time. Just want to wrap up by saying, so Ocean Boardroom is your business, and where can people find you if they need to?
They can find me online at oceanboardroom.com.au. We have a course calendar, and look us up, and you know, hopefully get to meet sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see each other tomorrow. So we'll put a link to the website on the description and all that stuff. And thank you so much. Really appreciate the work you do with us, by the way. Just wanted to mention that.
It's always a pleasure coming up here. You know, I enjoy coming up and delivering the courses. And I think what we did together is a good way, a good example of how you can partner and collaborate in an industry.
100%.
And then, you know, kind of complement capabilities and expertise and things like that.
Yes.
And the result is, you know, we've got lots of happy students, full classrooms, and everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the experience and the perspective that you as an individual brings to our school is very apparent, which is why we, you know, hope to keep working with you for a long time to come. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, Ivan. Cheers then.